You probably earn more than you did 3 years ago, maybe a lot more. And yet, here is a question worth sitting with. Do you actually feel richer? Not richer on paper, not richer in theory, richer in the way that matters. More secure, more breathing room, more margin at the end of each month. Most people in that position answer no. They earn more, the lifestyle has gone up, but the sense of financial security has barely moved. That gap between income growing and financial position staying roughly flat has a specific cause. It is not your discipline. It is not your willpower. It is a structural and psychological default that runs in the background whether you are aware of it or not. This episode explains exactly what that default is and what to do about it. The raise that disappeared. Let us start with a number. Say you were earning $55,000 4 years ago. Today, you are at $90,000. That is $35,000 more per year, roughly 60% growth over 4 years. The math says you should be substantially more secure by now. You should have meaningful savings built up. You should feel the difference. But here is the question. Where did it go? If you are honest about it, you probably cannot fully account for it without going back through your bank statements. The $35,000 a year did not disappear into nothing. It went somewhere. A better apartment, a nicer car, better restaurants, more travel, better clothes. A gym membership you did not used to have. The lifestyle improved. The savings, though, if they grew at all, they almost certainly did not grow by anywhere close to $35,000 a year. This is one of the most quietly widespread financial experiences for working professionals in their 20s and 30s. Research consistently shows that people who significantly increase their income over a decade report feeling about the same financially 2 to 3 years later. Not dramatically better, about the same. The income went up, the lifestyle went up, and the financial position stayed flat relative to where it was before. This is not a character flaw. It is not about being careless. It is about two specific mechanisms. One that lives in your psychology, one that lives in your spending, that are almost perfectly designed to absorb income growth without generating real financial progress. Once you see how they work, you cannot unsee them. Both operate invisibly by default, and the first one lives entirely inside your head. Hedonic adaptation. How the brain resets normal. There is a concept in psychology called hedonic adaptation. It is one of the most replicated findings in the field, and it describes something that is simultaneously obvious once you hear it and invisible while it is happening to you. Humans return to a relatively stable emotional baseline after positive life changes. You get a raise and you feel great for a few weeks. Then the new income level starts to feel normal. You move into a nicer apartment and it feels like a real upgrade for a month. Then it just feels like home. You fly business class on a long trip and it is remarkable the first time, expected the second time, and the minimum acceptable standard by the third. This is not weakness. It is not ingratitude. It is how human perception is built. The brain is designed to notice contrast, not absolute levels. What registers to your nervous system is change, relative to a reference point. Once something becomes the reference point, it stops generating a feeling. It becomes neutral, becomes the baseline. Applied to income and spending, hedonic adaptation produces a consistent pattern. Every lifestyle upgrade eventually stops feeling like an upgrade. It becomes the floor, the thing you no longer notice. And once it becomes the floor, the thing you had before, the smaller apartment, the budget flight, the cheaper neighborhood, starts to feel inadequate in a way it genuinely did not before the upgrade happened. Here is a concrete way to see this. Someone moves from a studio to a one-bedroom apartment when they get a raise. At the time, the one-bedroom felt like a meaningful improvement. More space, more privacy, genuinely better. 2 years later, they describe it as fine, but a little cramped. If you suggested moving back to the studio, They would say it was unlivable. Nothing in the world changed. The studio is exactly what it was, but the brain reset its baseline upward, and the old normal became uncomfortable. That is hedonic adaptation in practice. And it operates on everything: where you live, how you eat, how you travel, what you wear. Every upgrade gradually becomes the new minimum. And the new minimum is what your income needs to support before anything feels like progress. The financial consequence is that spending rises to protect the new baseline automatically, without any active decision. The brain does not experience this as a choice. It experiences it as necessity. The apartment at this cost is not a choice. It is what I need. The car payment is not a choice. These are the costs of the life I live. Hedonic adaptation is powerful on its own, but it is only half the picture. The social ratchet: peer groups pull the floor up. As income rises, peer groups tend to shift. Sometimes this is literal. A new job with a different kind of colleague, a different city, a social circle that looks different from the one 5 years ago. Sometimes it is subtler. The people around you also got promoted. The social events now carry a different price point. The ambient references to what is normal in your daily environment have quietly moved. This is not peer pressure in the obvious sense. Nobody is standing over you, saying you have to spend more. It is social calibration, the way the brain continuously reads the environment to determine what is appropriate, normal, and expected for someone in your position. Think about someone who takes a job in tech or finance. Their colleagues take ski trips that cost $4,000 per person. They go to restaurants where the bill is $80 or $100 per head, not as a special occasion, but as a regular Tuesday. These things are presented as normal in that environment. Nobody frames them as conspicuous. They are just what people do. And gradually, without any explicit decision, those things start to feel normal to someone who grew up with very different spending baselines. Budget trips start to feel like a sacrifice rather than a reasonable choice. Cooking at home starts to feel like something you do when you cannot afford to go out, rather than something you do by preference. The reference point for what people like me spend has shifted, and spending adjusts to match. The critical point is that this happens below conscious awareness. You are not choosing to let your spending floor rise. You are being calibrated to your environment, the way humans have always been calibrated to their environments. It is a social survival mechanism, useful when the tribe's spending level signaled shared resources and community standing, repurposed in a context where it creates individual financial risk. When the social ratchet combines with hedonic adaptation, the two mechanisms reinforce each other continuously. The brain resets what feels normal internally. The social environment provides ongoing external reinforcement of that new normal. The floor rises, and it feels like reality rather than a decision. But there is a third mechanism that completes the picture. And this one does not feel like inflation at all. The permission slip: I earned this. There is a version of lifestyle inflation that comes wrapped in a feeling of fairness, not recklessness, not impulsiveness. Something that feels much more like moral correctness. You worked hard. You gave up weekends. You dealt with a difficult manager for 2 years, or got through a genuinely difficult stretch. You built the thing that earned the raise or the promotion. And now you are at a new income level, looking at a nicer car or a better apartment or a vacation you would have said no to before. And the thought that arrives with complete confidence is, I earned this. This is the permission slip. And it is not irrational on its face. You did earn it. The raise was real. The effort was real. The problem is not the spending itself. The problem is that the permission slip is issued without any reference to the financial runway it consumes. Here is a version of this that plays out constantly. Someone gets a $20,000 raise. One of the first decisions they make is to upgrade their car, moving from a $350 per month lease to a $650 per month payment. The feeling is genuine. I work hard, I can finally drive something I actually want. The math runs quietly in the background. $300 more per month is $3,100 per year. Over a decade, that is $30,000 not saved or invested. If that money had been invested at a modest 7% annual return, the decade-end value would be closer to $50,000. The emotional permission felt like a reward. The financial math reads it as a cost. None of this means you should not upgrade your car, or move to a nicer apartment, or take a real vacation. The point is that the permission slip operates independently of any financial calculation. It is issued at the moment of emotional entitlement, and that moment is almost always the worst time to make a financial architecture decision, because the feeling of "I deserve this" is most active, and the long-term math is least visible. That permission, once issued, tends to create something more durable than the feeling that came with it. Fixed cost conversion, the invisible spending floor. Here is what distinguishes lifestyle inflation from ordinary discretionary spending. Lifestyle upgrades do not stay as choices. They convert into fixed monthly obligations. When you spend $300 on a nice dinner, that is a one-time decision. Next month, you can make a different one. When you upgrade to an apartment at $500 more per month, that is now a committed cost. It does not require a decision next month. It requires a decision to undo it, which is a much higher psychological and logistical bar. You have signed a lease. This is the mechanism that makes lifestyle inflation self-reinforcing. Every upgrade that converts to a fixed monthly cost adds to what we can call the spending floor, the minimum monthly output required to maintain your current standard of living, before any discretionary spending happens at all. Think through the list of recurring fixed costs that most people in their late 20s and early 30s accumulate over a few years of income growth. Rent at a higher level than the first apartment, a car lease or loan payment that did not exist or was smaller, streaming and software subscriptions that have multiplied, a premium gym membership, a meal kit or grocery delivery service, a nicer phone plan, possibly a storage unit for things the apartment can no longer fit. Each item on that list was once either absent or cheaper, and none of them feel like choices anymore. They feel like the baseline cost of being an adult. The useful exercise here, and this is one worth actually doing before we go further, is to add up every subscription and committed monthly expense you have today. Then estimate what that same list looked like 3 or 4 years ago. For most people in this situation, the delta is somewhere between $400 and $900 per month in new fixed costs that are no longer experienced as decisions. They just are. That is the invisible spending floor. It rises automatically with every upgrade, without any ongoing active decision being required to maintain it. Put the three mechanisms together: Hedonic Adaptation, the Social Ratchet, fixed cost conversion, and you have a system that is almost perfectly designed to absorb income growth. That combination creates a specific illusion that catches even careful, well-intentioned people completely off guard. The savings rate illusion. Let us run the numbers on a common scenario. Say you are saving $600 per month when you earn $60,000 per year. That is a savings rate of 12%. Reasonable start. Then you receive a significant raise and your income is now $120,000. You bump your monthly savings to $1,200. You have doubled your absolute savings. It feels like real financial progress, but your savings rate is still 12%. If your lifestyle inflated at roughly the same pace as your income, which is exactly what the three mechanisms we described produce by default, then your financial trajectory has not improved at all. You are saving twice as many dollars, but the same fraction of what you earn. In terms of the financial future you are building, you are running in place at a higher speed. Here is why the rate matters more than the absolute dollar amount. The difference between saving $1,200 per month and $2,400 per month over 30 years at 7% annual return is exactly 2 to 1. The final values scale directly with the monthly input. The $2,200 saver ends up with roughly $1.5 million. The $2,400 saver ends up with roughly $3 million. That entire gap, $1.5 million versus $3 million at the same income level, is the difference between someone whose savings rate grew with their income and someone whose lifestyle took the increase instead. The dollar amount in savings doubled not because of compounding magic, but simply because the rate was maintained. Absolute dollar savings feel like progress. Savings rate reveals the actual trajectory. This is the savings rate illusion. The belief that saving more dollars means you are building a stronger financial position, even when the fraction of income you capture in savings has stayed flat or declined. It is easy to fall into because the numbers look bigger. $2,200 is more than $600. It is. But the financial system you are building is the same size relative to your income as it was before. And relative to your future income needs, it has not grown. The people who feel this illusion most intensely are not the people struggling at lower incomes. They tend to be the people earning the most. Why high earners feel broke and won't admit it. There is an experience that is surprisingly common among people earning $150,000 per year or more that almost nobody talks about publicly. Persistent, background financial anxiety that does not match what the income number looks like on paper. Not desperation, not crisis, just a vague sense that money is tighter than it should be, and a genuine inability to explain why. The math gets there quickly. Take someone earning $180,000 in a major city. After federal and state taxes, they are netting around $110,000 annually, roughly $9,000 per month. That sounds like a lot. Now consider the spending floor that income tends to support at that career stage. Rent in a desirable city at $3,200 to $3,500 per month. Car payment at $800 to $900. Groceries and household at $600. Social spending calibrated to a professional peer group at $800 to $1,000 per month. Everything else, travel, fitness, subscriptions, clothing, miscellaneous, at another $700 to $900. Monthly savings, roughly $2,000 to $2,500. Annual, around $25,000 to $30,000. Savings rate, about 22 to 27%. That is not a bad savings rate. But look at what it means structurally. The entire lifestyle, the apartment, the car, the social life, the city, is built around the $180,000 income. There is no margin for a voluntary income reduction to pursue something different. There is limited buffer for opportunity. One significant unexpected expense, one job loss, and the entire structure is under immediate pressure. The income is high. The financial position is thinner than it looks. And the person in this situation often cannot name why they feel financially uncomfortable at a number most people would consider wealthy. The reason is that the three mechanisms absorbed every income increase they ever received, and no structure was ever built to prevent it. The fix is not willpower, it is architecture. The automation wall, separating income growth from lifestyle growth. Here is the core insight from everything we have covered. The system that drives lifestyle inflation is automatic. Hedonic adaptation is automatic. Social calibration is automatic. Fixed cost conversion is automatic. The permission slip arrives automatically. These mechanisms operate before the decision window even opens, which means that trying to resist them with willpower is structurally unfair. Willpower requires a decision in the moment. These mechanisms shape what the decision will look like before you get there. The contest is rigged at the architecture level, and willpower alone is not the right tool for an architectural problem. The alternative is to build a counter-architecture. Specifically, a wall between income growth and lifestyle growth that operates automatically, in the same way the inflation mechanisms do. Here is how it works in practice. Determine a target savings rate, say 20% of gross income. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a savings or investment account on the day your paycheck arrives, or the day before. The money moves before you see it in the account you spend from. Lifestyle runs on what remains. When income increases, the rule is, increase the auto transfer amount or percentage first, before any lifestyle adjustment is made. Even a 2 to 3 percentage point increase in the savings rate, executed before any new spending is approved, means that income growth is being split between your future financial position and your present lifestyle, rather than flowing entirely to lifestyle by default. The key word is automatic. The decision about how much to save is made once when the architecture is being set. It is not remade each month. It is not subject to the permission slip feeling, because the money is already out of the spending account before that feeling has a chance to operate on it. This is not a budgeting trick. It is a fundamental redesign of which system controls the financial outcome, the automatic default, or a structure you built to counteract it. The automation wall solves the slow, chronic drift of lifestyle inflation, but raises require their own separate, specific rule. The 50% rule for raises. When a raise arrives, there is a window, usually 1 to 2 weeks, before the new income level starts to feel normal, before the baseline resets, before the permission slip becomes fully active. That window is the only time the financial architecture can be changed without it feeling like sacrifice. After the baseline resets, keeping any of the raise out of lifestyle spending feels like deprivation, even though you were perfectly fine before the raise existed. The 50% rule is a simple framework for using that window. When a raise comes through, commit 50% of the net increase to savings or debt paydown automatically, before lifestyle adjusts. The other 50% is free to spend on whatever upgrade feels right. Let us make this concrete. Say you receive a $10,000 gross raise. After taxes, depending on your bracket, you are netting roughly $6,000 to $6,500 more per year. That is around $500 to $540 per month in additional take-home pay. The 50% rule says $250 per month goes directly to an investment account via auto transfer, starting with the first paycheck after the raise. The other $250 per month is available for lifestyle. Over 10 years at 7% annual return, the $250 per month invested compounds to roughly $43,000. The lifestyle portion is also real and ongoing. $250 per month of additional spending is a genuine improvement. Both things happen simultaneously without sacrifice, because the structural decision was made once in the window before the baseline reset. The reason this rule works where pure savings goals often fail is that it does not require deprivation. Lifestyle actually improves. The raise feels like a genuine reward because it is. The difference is that financial position improves alongside it, instead of staying flat while the lifestyle absorbs the entire increase. The specific split can be adjusted. 60% to savings is more aggressive. 40% allows more lifestyle improvement. The exact percentage matters less than the principle. Capture at least some of the income growth in savings rate before the baseline resets, while the window is still open. Most of us, though, already have a baseline that has been building quietly for years, which means the more useful immediate question is not about the next raise. It is about what is actually sitting inside the current baseline right now. Auditing your own baseline. This chapter is an exercise, and I want you to actually do it rather than just follow along. Pull up your bank and credit card statements from 3 or 4 years ago. Whatever is accessible. Go through them and list your recurring monthly costs at that time. The rent or housing payment. The car payment, if there was one. Every subscription you can identify. The regular spending categories. Then do the same for today. Calculate the monthly delta between then and now. Not what you think it is, the actual number from the statements. For most people, that number is higher than expected. $400 to $900 per month in new fixed costs. That is a rough range based on typical patterns at this income level. For some people, it is less. For others, it is significantly more, particularly if the income growth was large or the time window was longer. Once you have the number, the second question is more important than the first. For each item in that delta, was it a deliberate choice or did it just accumulate? Not whether the spending was reasonable or unreasonable, not whether it was worth it. Simply, did you consciously decide on this, or did it happen by default as the baseline crept up? Most people find, when they go through this honestly, that the delta is a mix. Some of it is clear, deliberate choices: the better apartment, the car upgrade, the trips. Those were actual decisions. But there is usually also a cluster of things that simply appeared, subscriptions added one by one that now total more than expected, a spending category that inflated with the social environment without a single clear decision point, a fixed cost that converted from variable to mandatory at some point and is now just part of the floor. The purpose of this exercise is visibility, not guilt. You cannot make deliberate decisions about a baseline you cannot see. This exercise makes the floor visible, and once it is visible, you can redesign it from a position of choice rather than default. Once the floor is visible, the next move is to redesign it deliberately, starting from a target rather than from whatever happens to be left over. The reverse engineer. Savings rate first, lifestyle second. Here is how most people approach personal finance by default. Earn income, cover fixed costs, spend on lifestyle, and save whatever is left over at the end of the month. Savings is the residual, the amount that remains after everything else is paid. The structural problem with this is that lifestyle spending always tends to fill the available space. It has the three mechanisms we described, pushing it upward automatically. Savings, positioned as the residual, is always competing against the lifestyle floor, and the lifestyle floor has the home advantage. The reverse engineer flips this completely. Start with a savings target. Back calculate what that requires. Build lifestyle from whatever remains. Here is how to do it concretely. Start with a goal, a financial position you want to reach at a specific point in time. Say $1 million invested by age 55. Not necessarily retirement, but a freedom number, a level where options open up that do not exist when you are entirely dependent on the next paycheck. Now work backwards. If you are 30, you have 25 years. At 7% annual return, reaching $1,000 in 25 years requires investing roughly $1,200 per month, starting now. If you are 35 with 20 years, you need about $2,900 per month. If you are 40 with 15 years, it rises to about $3,200 per month. Put those numbers next to your actual income. If you earn $90,000 per year, roughly $5,500 per month after taxes, and the target requires $1,900 per month in savings, that leaves $3,600 per month for everything. Rent, food, transportation, lifestyle, all of it. That is your lifestyle budget, derived from the savings requirement rather than the other way around. For some people, this math is uncomfortable. The numbers may reveal that the current lifestyle is meaningfully incompatible with a real financial target, not by a small margin. That is useful information to have, even when it is not pleasant. For others, the math is more manageable than expected. The point in both cases is the same. Savings becomes the constraint that lifestyle adjusts around, rather than lifestyle being the constraint that savings adjusts around. This does not require a Spartan life. It requires a deliberately designed one. And when income grows and the savings rate grows with it, the lifestyle budget grows too, but as the product of deliberate design, not default absorption. The final question is what to spend that growing lifestyle portion on. And for most people, at this stage of life, the highest value answer is not the one the social environment suggests. A real upgrade, buyback time, not status. If you follow the architecture in this episode, the automation wall, the 50% rule, the reverse engineer, then at some point you will have a lifestyle budget that genuinely grows alongside income. Savings rate goes up, and the portion available for lifestyle spending goes up too. The question is, what is that money actually worth spending on? Most lifestyle inflation, as we described, runs towards status goods. Better car, nicer neighborhood, more expensive restaurants and travel. Things the social environment signals as the appropriate upgrade for someone at your income level. These are the default because the social ratchet points at them. But for people in their 20s and 30s building a working life, the highest value purchases are almost never status goods. They are time purchases, things that give back hours or reduce daily friction in ways that compound across a working week and a working year. A shorter commute is worth more than almost any other quality of life purchase you can make. Research on life satisfaction consistently shows that commute time is one of the most reliable predictors of daily unhappiness. If a more expensive apartment cuts your daily commute by 30 minutes each way, that is an hour per day, 5 hours per week, return to your life. That is a genuine upgrade. And unlike a nicer car, it does not get fully absorbed by hedonic adaptation within a few months, because the relief of not being stuck in traffic compounds daily. A better sleep environment has compounding returns on energy, focus, and daily functioning that persist over time. A good mattress, a quieter location, reasonable temperature control. None of this signals anything to the social environment, but it improves the actual experience of every day in ways that hold up, rather than fading once the novelty wears off. Delegation of genuinely low-value tasks, cleaning, certain household logistics, errands that consume peak hours, frees up time for the things that matter more. This is a time purchase. It accumulates in your actual daily experience, not in your social standing. Reliable transportation that does not create ongoing stress or uncertainty is worth more than a luxury version of the same thing. The upgrade from unreliable to reliable is a genuine life improvement. The upgrade from nice to very nice is mostly social signal, and social signal is what gets absorbed by hedonic adaptation first. The principle is this: when the lifestyle budget grows, spend it on things that improve your actual daily experience rather than your apparent social position. The former has lasting value because it changes the quality of your hours. The latter gets absorbed, the social ratchet moves to match it, and you find yourself looking for the next upgrade. And there is one practical thing worth naming directly before we close. When income rises, a raise, a bonus, a promotion, there is a window. Usually 1 to 2 weeks before the new level starts to feel normal, before the baseline resets, before the permission slip becomes fully automatic. That window is the only moment when the financial architecture can be changed without friction. Before you spend any of the increase, before you look at what might be upgraded, set the auto transfer. Apply the 50% rule. Make the structural decision first. After the baseline resets, what you have is necessity. Before it resets, what you have is a choice. Use the window. Let us bring the whole picture together. The reason a raise never makes you feel richer is not a mystery, and it is not a character flaw. It is a set of specific, compounding mechanisms running in the background. Hedonic adaptation resets your baseline upward with every lifestyle upgrade, so that what was once a luxury becomes the new minimum. The social ratchet calibrates your spending to your peer group without any conscious decision, pulling the floor up as the reference group shifts. Fixed cost conversion locks each upgrade into a committed monthly obligation, removing it from the category of choices and placing it in the category of necessities. The savings rate illusion lets you double your dollar savings while keeping your financial trajectory completely flat, because the rate stayed the same while lifestyle absorbed everything else. High earners feel financially stressed not because they earn too little, but because these mechanisms do not stop at $150,000. They just have more income to work with. The interventions that break this pattern are structural. The automation wall removes the savings decision from the moment when the permission slip is most active, making savings automatic rather than optional. The 50% rule uses the window right after a raise, before the baseline resets, to capture income growth in both savings rate and lifestyle at the same time. The reverse engineer builds the lifestyle budget from a savings target, so that savings is the constraint and lifestyle is what adjusts. And when the lifestyle budget does grow, the highest value upgrades at this stage of life are not status goods. They are time purchases, things that return hours, reduce friction, and improve daily experience in ways that actually persist. You earn more than you did 3 years ago. Yes. The question is whether the next 3 years look different from the last 3. That is an architecture question, and you now have the architecture. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, the channel covers money, habits, and mindset on a regular basis, the structural side of building a life you are actually in control of, worth staying around for.